So, what we have here is bipartisan economic illiteracy. The reason, dear congressmen and women, that U.S. corporations are keeping their money overseas is to avoid being double taxed. In other words, these companies have already paid taxes in whatever foreign country they operate. Why should they be taxed again by the United States Congress when they repatriate that money here? It's crazy. But also crazy, what's happening at the Federal Aviation Administration right now. Joining me now from our bureau in Washington, D.C., from Accuracy in Media, editor Roger Aronoff. Roger, to me, what's happening at the FAA is, well, it's pretty symptomatic of what's been happening with the Obama administration for the last 6 years. But clearly, it's a case in general of the fox guarding the henhouse.
Yes, indeed, Graham. Great to be with you again. Yes, what you're referring here to is that the FAA has changed their hiring practices. For years, they used people either who had been in the military or who had had extensive training through something called the CTI, the Collegiate Training Institute. Now, what's happened is all of a sudden at the end of 2013, they threw out this, and then that includes many people who had spent up to $30,000 going to these technical schools learning to be air traffic controllers, and then all of a sudden they were told, sorry, those degrees are meaningless. Now we're going to go to a new system where all you need is a high school diploma to be able to speak English. And basically, you can come in, you have to take what we call a biographical questionnaire. And what this is really about is ethnic diversity.
Okay, let's
get into that more.
Let's pick this apart here, because you said a lot in a couple of sentences there. First of all, to be prior to this moment in time, up until a couple of years ago, and the Obama administration radical change here, you went to school to be an air traffic controller. You had a college degree. You trained for something like this, correct?
That's exactly right, yes, for years.
And so now you're talking about completely throwing that out the window with virtually no notice to these people who are in school being trained to be air traffic controllers. Their degrees and all the money they spent on these degrees virtually worthless now?
That's the case, yeah. And there's a number of people who have sued, and there is an effort by one congressman and a few others with him, Randy Hultgren of Illinois, who has looked into this and has introduced new legislation to reverse this process, to go back to having these people. But we're talking air traffic control. This is the safety of our planes flying in the air. And I can tell you from what I've learned is that there have been a number of very close calls because the people who are there are generally not qualified to be there. There have been many who have been thrown out of the system because they were so bad. And the other part of this is that they are part of something called the National Black Coalition of Federal Aviation Employees. So this is a group that if you join this, in essence, a union or this association, what happens is then they walk you through this biographical questionnaire so you are able to answer it, and you can do it at home on your own computer over a 2-week period to fill out this questionnaire. But they have a recording that they tell you, they walk you through what to fill out, so you will be able to pass this and get hired.
And again, this union, Roger, this union, it's a black union, obviously, for African Americans. And so if you join a union like that, one would assume you're probably black. So if they're funneling these people in there, this is a way to get around affirmative action. This is a backdoor affirmative action. So what we're having here in the FAA and the Obama administration's FAA is underqualified people possibly getting into the system who are now in charge of the safety of all air traffic in this country.
Yes, I mean, this is a scandal that should be looked at constantly by the news media, but they are ignoring this. It's like Benghazi or the IRS scandal. They consider it not even worthy of being discussed. And the other part about it is that what happens now, before these people were taking out loans and spending their own money to go to these CTIs, now the government is paying, you know, they bring them in and then they start training them, and then they often $400,000 they will have to spend by the time they're ready to go, and they end up cutting many of them loose because they aren't able to do the job.
And the FAA is only policing itself, and of course it's not going to blow the whistle on itself. Congress needs to get in there and get its fingernails dirty before something terrible happens. Roger, thank you.